Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video that's going to be a ranking of all of my Nomad palettes. I have 10 different Nomad palettes and I'm going to be letting you know which ones I think are the best and which ones I think are my least favorites, because we all have some favorites and least favorites from brands, even if it is brands that we really love, and I really do love Nomad Cosmetics, and I thought I'd let you know in what order I would rank them, if I would rank them, which I am doing right now. Why am I speaking about this like it's not happening? It's happening in like 2 minutes. And if you haven't been here before, if this is your first video here, hello, my name is Angie. I am such a lover of beauty makeup. I love everything beauty makeup related, and I especially love things that are a little bit more on the colorful side, and I love indie brands. So this is a perfect combo of those two things in this video. And if you would like to see more stuff like that, don't forget to subscribe because I upload every day until Christmas. Yes, Vlogmas is upon us. I am uploading every day until Christmas. I don't know exactly what day this video is going up, if it is a Wednesday or if it is a Thursday, but Nomad Cosmetics is having a Black Friday sale during this week, so I will leave the details to that down below. I will also leave a link to a video that I did last Sunday where I was talking about the different indie beauty Black Friday sale details that are going on. So if you're interested in indie makeup and if you're interested in partaking in the Black Friday sales, I would highly recommend you to check out that video. But let's get into the rankings. I am wearing one of the palettes today and I will let you know what that is when we get there. If you're curious, you can always check in the description box because I will link all these videos. I will link if I have corresponding videos or corresponding reels or anything like that, tutorials with these palettes. And I will of course also link all the things that I have on my face in case you are interested in what is that foundation, what is that lipstick, you know, all those things. You can always find all the info down in the description box. This video is not sponsored, but I am fairly sure that I have received all of these palettes in PR. I am on the PR list of Nomad Cosmetics and I do have a code with them. My code is Angelica and I will normally get you 10% off, but I will say if you are shopping from Nomad Cosmetics right now, around the time of Black Friday, I would highly suggest you to check out my Black Friday deals they have instead, because you can definitely save more money that way. Okay, let's get into the palettes. I hope nobody's going to be upset with me about this. Okay, on space number 10. Are these 10? Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, number 10 is going to be the holiday palette of this year. If you saw my video where I was ranking this one, this is the Santa's Village. This is the limited edition palette, like I said, for holiday this year. If you saw the video where I was reviewing this one, you probably, you're not surprised at all that you're gonna find this at the bottom position. This is just not my favorite Nomad palette. I think the mattes are the same great quality that I like and know from Nomad Cosmetics, but the shimmers, they're calling it a topper shimmer. I just think it is a little too emollient, but at the same time too hard pressed, which is a formula that I'm not super familiar with, and it makes it really hard to pick up, and I feel like it looks a little chunky on the lids. I usually love a topper formula, but this just isn't my favorite shimmer formula from them. I think that they can do so much better than this, and I also think that the mattes not 100% go with each other, even though I think that the colors, if you take them out of this context, are beautiful. I think the colors of the shimmers are beautiful too. I just don't love 100% working with them. This is the only palette that I have from Nomad Cosmetics that I actually am like, I don't love the quality of this one. And I will mention another palette in a bit that has a similar color story to this. It's also a little winter theme that I think has a better color selection and actually a better formula. I did have 2 other palettes from Nomad from before as well, but those have been discontinued, so I have actually decluttered them and gave them away to friends, so you won't be seeing those in my collection. All of these palettes, except this that is number 9, are available right now, if I'm not mistaken. I think they are, and if they aren't, they have quite recently been discontinued because none of these palettes are like super old. This is the holiday palette that they had last year. This is the Home for the Holidays. Yes, this was also a 9-pan palette. This was an all shimmer palette except a matte black down here. This shimmer formula I really like. It is a like very metallic, slightly sparkly without looking chunky, and I like the colors in here. Thought this palette was really beautiful, but at the end of the day, this is a shimmer rainbow palette, and if you know me, you know that I have a hard time falling in love with an all shimmer palette. I am a matte gal, even though I'm wearing some shimmers today. At the end of the day, a matte eyeshadow is always going to make me more excited than a shimmer. So for that reason, I'm putting this at the bottom. Nice shimmers, but can we have an all matte palette for next holiday? I'm just saying. At number 8, I'm putting this one. This is such a pretty palette. And here we're coming into like, all of these palettes are really pretty. And I like the color of all of these palettes. This is the, I think it's Paradise Islands. Did this come out last year? When did this come? I'm not 100% sure. This is a very colorful palette. I really, really do like the palette. The thing that is bringing it down for me is that I think that it is slightly too big. And for being this big, it doesn't really offer anything that I think is deep enough for my liking. Maybe this green here, but honestly, I would have liked that to be even darker. And there are a couple of shades here. Were I able to pick, I would have made this a little smaller, maybe like something like this, and just taken 2 shades out and brought in 2 more like deeper mattes, or just something to keep it from being so light and so mid-tone. With that being said, there are a lot of people out there that hate dark eyeshadows, that never wear dark eyeshadows, and every time I mention that I want a palette that goes deep, there are people that are like, oh, but I'm so happy that this is lighter because that means that I can use every color. And if that is you, if you're looking for something nice and fresh and tropical to bring into your collection that doesn't have any of those dark shades, this is a really nice palette. It's also a really nice companion palette for summer to just inject some like tropical colors to your collection. But for me, this will forever be a palette that I use together with something. Nothing wrong with that, but I have palettes from Nomad that I like even more. This is the palette that I'm wearing today. This is the Haunted Europe palette. I do like the front of this. Some people really hate that. I don't mind it. This palette is, I thought, okay, here's the thing. I recently added 3 of these slightly older palettes to my collection because I wanted to round up my collection a little bit. I wanted to make sure that they had the same formula throughout all of the palettes, and I pretty much do think they have that. Sometimes it differs a little bit here and there, but all in all, I do think that with all of these palettes that I'm showing you here, it is pretty much the same formula, except when I'm telling you that something is different, like the shimmers in that first palette. This is why this one isn't higher. This one has some deep mattes. I'm wearing the green, and I do think that this is like deep enough for me. I don't love this color story as much as I thought I was gonna do. When I really got this palette, and when I was able to like really look at it, I was like, what colors am I combining? So today I'm wearing this green, and I blended it out with this like slightly sandy beige, and that wasn't super easy. And I think that for me, unless you want a look that's leaning very neutral, it's really hard to find a combo in this palette that is not going to be very neutral with a colorful shimmer. And I didn't really see that until I had the palette in my hands, until I had the palette here with me. This shimmery green, which is the shimmery green I have here, beautiful. Also this like gold that is so yellow that it's like a yellow shimmer, absolutely beautiful. There's a duochrome. I think this, no, maybe this isn't the one that's a duochrome. Didn't I see it? Maybe this is the duochrome. I'm so sure. Was that another palette? No, I'm feeling stupid, but I like the shimmers in here more than I like the mattes, and I think the main reason is because I think the mattes, whatever I will do with them, it will lean more neutral than I would like, and I don't think the combos of the mattes in this one make the most sense, according to me. Here comes a palette that honestly could have been even higher had it not been for one row in the palette. And this is the Provence palette. It is Fête de Provence, and this is of course based on Provence, the region in France. I think that this palette is beautiful, but I will never use these. I don't like gray eyeshadows, and this is the only thing that's really bringing this palette down for me. I had to pick and choose between the palettes. This one has a combo that I really like, which is pink and red. And I will say this one here, I think that if this one had been a yellow metallic, because this one is very green. I think you can see it. Yeah, it's very green, which makes it not really go together with the other shadows as much in real life, or like when you do it, as it does in theory in this palette. Had this been a yellow metallic, this probably would have been a little bit more higher, because this is a dark shade I can deepen any of these up with. I will give props where props are due though. This is probably the best, most innovative color story that Nomad has ever done, because I feel like sometimes if you look at all the Nomad palettes, sometimes they have a similar theme. Couple of greens, couple of red leanings, a yellow or an orange. It's very similar in what they choose for colors. And if you, now when I said that, you probably will not be able to unsee it. It's usually like one or two blues, one or two greens, like a yellow and an orange, a couple of neutrals. It's not unusual for them to follow a pattern when it comes to which colors they put in. And I feel like with this palette, they truly had an innovative take on an original color story. And I really hope to see more things like that in the future. Without the grays. Sorry. Next one is one of the newer palettes in my collection, and I love the color combos in this palette. This palette, again, this could have been even higher for me if this had one really dark matte, because neither this or this or this are really deep colors according to me. They're like darker midtones, but they're like deep colors. But I really love the green row here with the yellow, and then this color, which is a color that I really like, which is a yellow with a pinky peach shift. I don't know if you can see it. The shimmers in this palette, and did you hear me before when I said that I'm a matte girl? I am, but the shimmers in this palette is very interesting. This is very sparkly. There's like a peach, pink, gold duochrome down here. All of these shimmers are really beautiful and really different, but at the same time, this palette, everything goes together. There are so many combos that you can do with this palette, and I really think that this is a pretty palette. I like the theming, I like the color story, I like the background, I like the imprints. I think this is a really well-made palette, and had this had even one, if this had been a really dark espresso brown, if this had been a super black and plum, I think this would have been number 1. Or at least number 2. Maybe 3, because I really love number 1 and 2 a lot. Wow, you're making sense today, Angie. Go you! I know for a lot of people, this is their favorite palette from Nomad, and this is the Iceland Fire and Ice palette. And this is pretty cool because it's like, there is some texture here, so it's meant to be like a glacier, and on the inside it's like magma, it's like lava and like inside a volcano. I think that is a really cool way of showing how Iceland really can be very temperamental and just have like 2 different sides. I like the namings in this palette so much. It is like River Glacier, Frigg, which is a god, a Norse god from Norse mythology. If you didn't know that, I did a palette that was called Hela, which is Hel, which is that name here. I really like that they used the original names. You have Alfheim, Oden, Hekla, Muspelheim, Njord, Niflheim. There's a lot of really cool names in here, and there's a lot of things that are not only with Norse mythology but also with Iceland. And I like that they really took the theming of having the glacier and then just a river of lava in the middle. These 2 mattes, incredible. Absolutely incredible. Love those so much. The shimmers here are so beautiful. I love this mix of brights and muted colors without being neutrals. And even though this one is kind of following the theme that I told you, they will have a couple of blues, a couple of greens, and then an orange or a yellow and a red. This, you're not going to be able to unsee that now. You're going to see that in every palette now. I still think that this one is really well executed. I love the theming, I love the imprints, I love the quality, I love that there is a really dark color. This dark blue is actually pretty dark as well. I think this is a really beautiful palette. Not my favorite, but I agree that it's a really good one. Okay. Almost knocking things over. This is the Hudson Valley palette. This is the fall palette that I had for this year. I think that this is a lot of people's favorite. And I think that this is a lot of people's favorite for a simple reason, that this is a very good marriage between really colorful shades and really good neutrals. Because this is not only the packaging, this is a matte packaging with this like gold leaf. Oh, so beautiful. On the inside, you have this wonderful, super bright area in the middle with this yellow, and then warm neutrals, cool tone neutrals, and some like more muted greens. This color story is so smart, and this is a palette of my liking because it is very matte heavy. I do love a matte heavy palette. If someone told me you can only use mattes or you can only use shimmers for the rest of your life, that's not even a question. I'm already taking my matte shadows and leaving. Goodbye shimmers. That was fun. See you never. So for me, this is a really good palette for that reason. I really like how this looks. The 3 shimmers in the middle also make sense. Like, it is a green, it is a more red, and there is more of a almost like a pumpkiny, yellowy. It's not a gold, it's more like a light orange metallic. Also really nice shimmer formula. I think that these are really pretty. This one is missing an inner corner highlight for me, but again, it's not that deep for me. Not that deep, but it's not that deep for me to just reach into something else and to get that. But I thought I'd let you know if that is something that is important to you, because I know for a lot of people, they tend to only buy palettes that have everything they need in one palette. It doesn't bother me that much, but I like to point it out sometimes. This is the one I told you that I would recommend to you if you were looking to get something that looked like that Santa's Village palette. This is winter themed. This is the Whistler's Snow Lodge palette. This one came out in January last year, and I think that this is beautiful. Again, couple of greens, couple of blues, throwing in the red and the yellow. You're not going to be able to unsee it. We're on this journey together now, you and me. This one has some of my favorite shimmers from Nomad, if not my favorite shimmers. I think this one has my favorite shimmers, and I think the America's Sparks is probably number 2, because I think those are so beautiful and so interesting. This like light blue lavender duochrome. This is a light pink like iridescent topper, a good iridescent topper. This absolutely stunning deep royal blue metallic. This sage green here has so much finely milled sparkle that's like a sea foamy. It's so pretty. And then a couple of neutrals at the end, and then this very deep color, and actually pretty deep green. Really beautiful palette. Really beautiful palette, high quality. If you were looking for a winter themed palette with those kind of colors, I would definitely recommend this one. And I know for a fact that this was going to be on sale for Black Friday. This is my number 2 pick. So I've said this before, so this should not come as a surprise if you've listened to me talk about Nomad Cosmetics before, that my favorite is the, oh my god, the Cloud Forest palette, Monteverde. I am so sorry. I'm not 100% sure if it's Spanish. I should know of this. Should I not? Should we Google it? Let's Google and see how we pronounce Monteverde. Monteverdi. Am I saying that correctly? Monteverdi. I should have checked that out before, especially since I did review this one. Monteverdi Cloud Forest. I love this palette. It is very matte heavy. The shimmers that are in here are really beautiful. This is actually like a green, almost like a brown green to a pink duochrome, which is very unique. There are 2 very sparkly topper shades, one green, one blue. There are a couple of more like deeper shades here too. This green is so pretty. I love this palette. This palette is very much based on the front. And when they described the color story of this palette, they said that the palette is like a green palette representing the rainforest, and then the pops of colors are representing the flowers, the animals, the butterflies that peek through, like here, that peek through the greenery. And I think that that is just so genius. When you know the inspiration behind color placement, it all makes sense. This is a half green, half neon rainbow palette. And that sounds weird in theory, but when you have it, it's such a good palette. I reached into this palette several times just to get that one matte, and I've really enjoyed this palette. There is one that is like dark enough to be used as a deepening up color, but also some of these are so bright and so saturated that I can use them on their own in my crease and still be happy with it. I like the shimmers that they added. I like that there are duochromes, toppers, metallics. There are some different formulas, and I like that it's matte heavy. I'm not 100% sure if they're gonna have any specific deals on this one, but I do know that I'm fairly sure that they're having 35% off on Cyber Monday. So I think you can get this one 35% off unless it is out of stock. But yeah, this is my favorite from Nomad. I think they did so good with this one. And I think they were able to do a colorful palette that's actually in parts a rainbow palette, but still make it interesting, still make it original. And I think that is rare, to be able to bring something new to the rainbow palette category. But they did that, And this is one of my favorite rainbow palettes in my collection. I think it's so pretty. Let me know which is your favorite palette from Nomad. Am I missing your favorite? Because I do know that I don't have the Tokyo palette, for example. I don't have the Simplon something Express palette. I think there's something more that I'm missing as well, but I'm really happy with the ones I have. I'm really happy that I'm able to try palettes from Nomad, that I have these, that I have a code with them. I just think that they're a really fun brand. And I think it's a really fun idea to have with the brand, this whole like globetrotter, like traveling around the world, because this brand is owned by a wife and a husband that love to travel together. So they're basing their palettes on the different destinations that they have visited and loved. And one of the owners is actually from Finland. And that's actually a reason why I really wished that I would have loved the Santa's Village palette, because I mean, I'm from Sweden, he's from Finland. It's just unfortunate that I'm not loving that topper formula. But I'm very much excited to see what they're having coming in 2023. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you again tomorrow for a new video. Bye!